Of course, we're recording with it. That's fine. We'll leave this part in and just tag Jackson and Keely.
Oh, God.
I was telling Price, me and Hannah were sitting there talking about figuring out what we were wanting to dress up as this year for Price's party. And I had made the joke that I was like, how funny would it be if we dressed up as newlywed Keely and Jackson and show up to their Halloween party as that? And I was like, that's pretty, like, it's both disrespectful and hilarious, but I think it'll land on the funny side for Price more than the disrespectful side.
It would.
I think both him
Bless
and
you.
Kelly would also just be like, that's pretty funny. Like, we show up and we're holding the newlywed signs or doing that, and I was like, yeah.
Wait, did you even know they got married?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
We
He's
talked
off the
about
grid,
it last
right?
night,
Yeah, I know.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot it.
Yeah, that's true. We did talk about it in here. We did talk about it. That's a valid question, though. He's off the grid, folks.
He's off the grid. I was talking to Dustin on the way here, and he was talking about how he still enjoys the fact he's not on Facebook or anything anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. If it's this darn Final Fantasy news went anywhere else but Facebook, I would not be on it.
If I could find people's birthdays anywhere but Facebook, I'd do that.
Why
Is
don't
it
you
just
just
matter?
write them down?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I'm the same.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
Mason's
Nathan.
like,
Nathan
why?
was having a
Why?
microphone before he
boring.
was sped up. Yeah.
No.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Birthdays are great.
What are they?
Shut up, both of you.
Some people want to make big game night plans out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just a reason to get together.
That's true.
But
See,
any
they're
day is
wrong
a
with
reason
that.
to get together. Why's it got to
Watching-
be your birthday?
Watching everything
Why not just
everywhere
any day?
all at once is a good reason to get
Yeah, I
together.
mean, that's the reason we got together today.
That's true. And Tomb Raider.
Which is a fantastic segment into this lovely episode of another Cinema Rolls. No, I'm kidding. It's still up in Movie Podcast. Sorry, Kelly. Kelly Bell in the comments below, still incentivizing us for Cinnamon Rolls. I need you to clarify how often we would get Cinnamon Rolls. Continue this banter in the comments below.
Yep.
We know you're watching. And
By
we
the
like
point that the time that this comes out, though, there's going to be 2 Kelly Bells.
Ooh.
Kelly
Well,
Senior.
That's true.
And we'll take Kelly Jr. cinnamon rolls.
Kelly
we don't want
Jr.
to discriminate.
You know what? Kelly Bell Jr., if you're making cinnamon rolls, let us know. Well, we gotta try it. It's a sorting process.
Yeah.
I don't.
Auditioning.
Right. It now Kelly Bell seniors.
Can we get into the movie?
Speaking of family stuff, what movie
Thank
are we
you.
talking about today?
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
What a mouthful.
It is.
I had a witty
You don't
quote,
wanna
and then
go
I
there.
just
you
didn't.
did?
I
Yeah.
didn't. I threw it away.
You ain't it, bro.
You probably want
You
to
ain't
leave
him.
it.
So, all right, Price, I will give you the pleasure of describing this film.
Yeah.
Was this your choice?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is an A24 film that came out earlier this year, 2022. I'm dating this movie. And it's about this woman. I wish I could remember names. I never remember character
Michelle
names.
Yeoh is who you're gonna remember on this one. That's the main character.
Okay, so main character is a very dedicated Chinese woman to her laundromat. She's married. She has a daughter, and her dad lives with them as well. The movie comes into her basically being very overworked, very overstressed, not really paying attention to the important things. Her husband the whole time is trying to serve her divorce papers, and he's very upset about it. Like he doesn't seem very happy about it.
And he's a very upbeat dude.
Yeah.
Very, like he's very
incredibly.
goofy. He puts the googly eyes on everything, dances with random patrons at the laundromat.
Yeah.
But the movie really kicks in once they go to the IRS building to have their taxes done, which has been a big issue for them in the past apparently. Where as soon as they go into the IRS building, while they're on the elevator, her husband suddenly changes into basically someone else. He takes off his glasses just like that, tells her that the future's in peril and all the other multiverses, and to help them out with it. And that's basically where the movie kicks off.
And hijinks ensue from there.
And hijinks ensue. See, there's a podcast name
Yeah.
right there.
All right, I'll concede that would be
Hijinks ensue.
That would be the one.
That is.
Yeah, not bad.
All right.
We could
we have-
explain it much, much more, but this is a crazy plot. It
the
just
more we
gets
describe it,
thicker.
the more we will get lost in it.
Yeah.
Right. Which
It's
is
a very good starting point.
in part its strength and its I think a weakness I'd part with it. Because it is a lot. If you're I'll put it like this, right? So if you're sitting talking about like the plot as it events, I feel like you have to be somebody who is very much understanding the story that they're telling without having to necessarily understand the story as what they're showing, right?
It's definitely, showing and not telling, I think.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, like, there is a lot of very clear, I think, but that's subjective, we get into understanding symbolism, and we understand with some people that some people just get lost in symbolism with movies at times. But if we're talking about, like, all the chaos that's happening on screen and then the story that they're telling underneath it, it's just like, yeah, you're getting the main concepts, but you're just like, wow, this is a lot of stimulation visually for what is kind of described as a very relatively simple story about family trauma and family generational stuff and things like that. Sure, it's that, but then on screen it's just like we've got universe busting, we've got animation shifts, we've got several to 8, like 6 or 7 different versions of this character living a different life, telling a different part of their story of what their life would have been like.
They're rocks now.
They're rocks now. We've got people leaping into crazy action scenes where they're leaping on sex toys into their butts.
Rakakuni's here?
Rakakuni, alright, Rakakuni's fucking sick, by the way. And if anything had rep into Rakakuni by the time this movie ended, zero. Hard zero. But yeah, this movie, I mean, is to say a lot. I think on the eyes, on the visual thing, and I don't think that's like a hot take on it.
That's my biggest qualm with this movie, is that it is a lot. With any of my other movies I've given these really high scores to, it's ones that you can basically watch at any time, and like in my opinion, you can watch it any time and enjoy. And with this movie, I think you really have to be in the right mindset.
It's a tall order
to digest everything. Like you have to be in the mood, in the right setting to be able to digest all this. Not to say it's like obtuse or overly obtuse is the best way I can say. It's not overly
It's
obtuse.
not pro-mayor. Yeah.
Sure.
That's the bar.
But it's
Honestly.
just a lot to handle in a movie because it's presenting a lot. It's expecting a lot from you as a viewer. You can't be a passive viewer and watch this movie.
No, this would be a very... I felt like if you turned away from this movie for like 5 or 6 minutes and you were doing laundry and came back to this movie, you would be like, okay, I kind of get the rough idea of the story, but I have no idea where we're at relative in it to like the actions and things they're showing.
And luckily there's a lot of dialect changing throughout, which helps a lot with that.
Yes.
Not only do you not feel comfortable leaving just because of all the crap that's happening, you actually cannot leave the room with a different language being spoken.
Unless you know
So, like,
Mandarin.
Yeah, unless you know Chinese.
Right. Well, or I mean, just the typical mixed the Chinese English transition in the beginning, which can I point out I
incredible
fucking love.
Yeah,
because
that
that feels so authentic to so many, like, especially whenever I would be in young childhood and I'd be visiting friends' houses and they came from Asian related families and stuff like that, and that is like the most relatable thing. And it's a dinner room scene, might I add, so double points for that because they're having dinner, they're making
Kind
eating their noodles.
It's her off.
It's
she's like doing paper.
That's all the same room. It's clearly at
She's
a
at her
dinner
dinner
table.
table.
She technically is at the dinner
It's just
table.
her.
It's not a
It
dinner
is.
scene.
It is.
No.
It's not. Well,
You're really stretching that.
I'm counting it. I'm counting it. It's in the realms of it,
Boxes
right?
of
No.
chips.
Conflict is happening while they're eating dinner, while in the dining room.
And conflict's not really
It
happening.
doesn't feel
Yeah, well,
conflict.
Like people are trying to present conflict
Minor
to her,
conflict.
and she's just
we're,
like,
we're
"Not
engaging
right now."
because we're sitting right. She's not engaging in it, but conflict is stirring at this point, and the daughter is sitting there and fighting to say, "No, I want to come out and show my girlfriend to grandpa in this
Grandpa.
instance, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the building, it's the terminations of it all, but that's not the point. The point is that I love that how organically natural that feels. That feels very much like if you've stepped on home with like Asian mothers who are like clearly Mandarin or like, Asian language was the primary language and English was second. The in between weaving where it's just like okay Mandarin English sentence English word Mandarin again and it's just tying between and it just felt very wholesome and it's a small little nod, but it just made the big difference for me on making it feel like oh my gosh that's like. I've been in houses where it's like that all of the time, and they're yelling, "Don't eat breakfast. Do eat the bowl of cereal on the table. No, not you." And it's just the communication. Humble nuts.
Yeah, my old Cambodian roommate, he was the same way. Like, I didn't understand many words if I ever went over to his parents' house, but he spoke a lot more English, and he had to do the whole thing.
Right.
So you're right. It felt really cool, and just the speed in which they were talking, unreal. I mean, just crazy. But moving into maybe some more of besides just that very first scene, which was pretty long.
Right. I mean, this is literally a movie broken up in 3 acts.
Yeah.
Kind of going into it, but I guess just kind of leaping into the overall big arc of like the multiversing and Joy, the daughter, being like this main antagonist, while like inherited by like this main spirit of the main antagonist, I guess. I think so. The one thing I randomly just really fucking love about this movie is the costume and makeup design on it. Joy, whenever she comes in and she's just constantly shifting.
She stands out so
Oh
much.
my
I
god,
love
yeah,
it.
she's killing it every time. And then even Michelle Yeoh when she's transitioning and throughout the universes, I think it's an underrated amount of like costume work that goes into this. Like the practical side of this movie, I think is incredibly engaging. So I just really fucking love that everything bagel is literally I put everything onto a bagel.
Everything on the bagel,
Anybody else audibly laugh at that, or did I find that like more funny than most people?
That was funny.
I didn't like its repetition.
Yeah,
But I do enjoy, because like at the very beginning you see Dennis, is that his name?
the
dad,
the guy who inherits the dad's body, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, like the husband that serves the divorce papers. Anyways.
I don't say it's Waymond.
Well, or Raymond maybe.
No, I
Anyways,
thought it was Waymond.
he talks about his original universe, and he you see a cut scene of like this like apocalyptic type world, and someone's holding up a bagel or a sign that says like "Hail Bagel." I don't know if you guys saw that. It was at the very beginning before the Everything Bagel even got spoken about, but
yeah, it's Waymond.
Cool. But yeah, there's talking about like the length of this movie. Price to your
Definitely. Yeah, it's over 2 hours.
2:20.
Yeah.
Which
I think
rolls
it needs
credits
it.
halfway through.
That's true.
Yeah.
The movie is technically done. You stayed around for an extended post-credit
Yeah,
scene.
I mean that's when I stopped, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
that's
when
fair.
everybody stopped.
Yeah.
She
Well,
died. It
she
rolled
definitely
credits.
died.
And it rolls credit.
That's
Yeah,
true.
she died, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. She was just too powerful.
And another thing that I really liked about this movie as well is I like how there were so many fight scenes. Like, they weren't too long for the most part, except that last one, of course.
Yeah.
And they all felt really important. Like, they all put the correct amount of gravitas on each fight that was happening. Like, it made it feel important that, like, if they lost in this one, like, it would be the end of everything. And I like how they kept that thread through every fight.
I mostly agree with that. I think the one fight where I feel like that doesn't stick for me so much is the one where it's like the sex toy one where they're constantly trying to leap on that to trigger the nuts.
Trying really hard
to leap on the butt plug.
Penetrate themselves.
Yeah. That one I feel like was teetering on the point where I'm like, okay, this is you just wanting to
That was comedy.
to balance the ridiculousness
like that
of
one,
it, right?
Like, she didn't have to be trapped
Right,
at that point.
right.
She probably could have gotten away from that fight.
Also, I'm just remembering Jenny Slate swinging that cat or that dog around.
Oh, yeah, with the horrible, like,
Yeah.
you could tell it was fake.
Yeah,
thing.
but that being said, Jenny Slate is like the actress you pick for that role, and she nails it.
Yeah.
So, and then we haven't even talked about what's her face, the tax lady becoming like that.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Thank you. Yeah, Jamie
That
Lee
was
Curtis.
incredible.
When she first shows up for the first time, and there's like, oh, like, you're here, like, like, I'm sorry about hitting you earlier, and she just stands straight up, and then she gets that paper with the circle on it, and just staples it on her forehead. Like, oh, yeah, it means business. And that's when she learns, like, sumo, I think?
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's kind of professional
she's
wrestling.
a professional wrestler.
Yeah,
that's
it's gonna be like the backbreaker.
That's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was
she's
going to do a
about to bane
backbreaker on
her.
him, and then eventually, like, she jumps off the top floor of the stairs to,
Right.
like, drop kick Evelyn below.
Right. Yeah, this movie's ambitious. This movie tries to be a lot of genres, and I can see where some people might be turned off by like what this movie's trying to reach for on this one, because this movie at times plays a little bit of horror, like with Jamie Lee Curtis's character when she's chasing her through the office.
She's scary.
Yeah, she is scary. This movie plays the comedy roles really well and balancing that out. This movie plays drama. It's playing with a lot of tone throughout it, and I think altogether actually fairly well. I think the tone shifts felt fine with like the movie scale with this changing of the verses and everything like that.
Well, you go from that butt plug scene that you were talking about just a moment ago, and I think like maybe 20 minutes later you're having like one of the hardest hitting like emotional beats that I've seen in cinema, where it's like you first have that beat where it shows like how Evelyn's going through that depressing process that the antagonist went through, how she's like devoid of emotion and everything now. But then it brings her back when it has that kind of tribute montage to Waymond.
Yep.
That like shows that like he's always been there. Like that's the reason you want to exist is because of love. And it goes through that really good montage of that.
Yeah.
Like so you like I said, you go from the butt plug thing to the super depressing one to a really heartfelt message like within like 20-30 minutes of each other.
This movie,
And it all feels it doesn't feel choppy.
Yeah.
It feels like it flows.
this movie being spoken out loud, like if you just read a synopsis of like the events of this movie, it would make you like I would feel like I was having a stroke. And I think people reading it would think that they were having a stroke by just hearing it like spoken out loud. But it's strange that this movie does a very good job of like that all making sense when it's in execution. I don't know. What, do you guys feel as though that it's like that all like it gelled well? I guess with
well,
the
there's one
things
through line that's like kind of basic if you think about it. It's like them in the IRS building, a bunch of stuff ensues,
right?
And then while that main through line is going, there's like stuff that's kind of branching off of it at the same time with the flashbacks and all that other stuff.
The question is,
to
which
me,
had more
it seems
timelines,
like
this or
it's-
Inception?
I don't know. The actual plot
Sure,
is very simple.
Yeah,
like
right.
it just really kind of wows you off in all the different directions,
Mhm,
but the actual story, the actual message, everything is just very straightforward.
Right.
A a lot of what you were talking about with the showing and not telling earlier was like in that very first elevator scene whenever they're going up through the IRS building. You know, he puts those things in her ears, and then like she flashes basically her entire life with her father. You know, and then them getting together and then doing the dry cleaners, whatever. Like from that moment, it was just here's your backstory, here's everything you need to see in about 48 seconds, and you know you got like that sensory overload that you're talking about, just this overwhelming sense, and then it's just back to normal. And then it wasn't much later before all that. It was like it was a little like sneak peek into what you're about to get into. If you didn't know what this movie was going to be about, you got most of it right then.
Yeah.
And if not then about 10 minutes later, whenever, like you said, Jamie Lee Curtis was like, or Jamie Lynch?
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, Jamie. Yeah. Yeah. With all the dimensions and shifting, so.
I will say this is a movie that I feel like is damn near impossible to make a good trailer about. Because after, like, watching the film, and then I went back and watched the trailer, because I remember thinking, like, yeah, this comes off, like, this always came up around Doctor Strange 2 times, so I was like, oh, this is very Asian Doctor Strange. And, like, watching the trailer with it, I'm just like, this looks like a fucking mess. Like, as a trailer, and I get it, because you think about, like, you know, how much is actually on screen and how much is told.
See, I was the opposite. I remember I saw this trailer in cinemas. Like, I don't remember what movie I was watching, because I never go. But this one came on. I was like, I want to watch this when it comes out. Like, this looks like something really different.
It looked
interesting,
but which is why I went to the movies to watch this.
Right.
Which I don't do often at all.
So I think my thing with it, I was on the other side of it, like, where I was like, this looked interesting, but the movie had me feeling like I had the bar so low, because I'm like, this movie's got a lot that it's doing, and I feel like it's going to be a little too wacky, or I feel like the tone, like, my biggest problem based on the trailer, I thought it wasn't going to take itself so seriously. And because again, it's just like action-y, fun, wacky stuff like that. And I thought it was gonna be almost more comedy. And you never know with A24.
That's true.
Yeah, A24 is fucking wacky.
Watch Marcel the Shell.
Yeah, you need to watch that.
I've heard that one's really good.
I've heard it's lovely.
It's just like an extended YouTube clip.
That's fine.
So there are two action scenes I was wanting to highlight. With the first of which being the one where they're in front of the bondage room. Or whatever, and she walks out and fights 8 or 9 people at one time,
That was cool.
and she like learns all those abilities like at the same time, especially the flag twirler one or whatever, where she like is able to spin that shield around. And she was able to spin that really well, and of course the pinky. I don't remember if it was that fight.
I think it was later on because they were in the mall
muscle on the pinky.
Right.
Yeah.
Is pretty ridiculous.
Bursting through. It's fun though. Like that's
Which-
not just.
There's no muscles.
There's no muscle.
fingers.
But it was this big. It was as big as the finger.
And she, like, flexes
it. That's not how fingers work.
No, it's not. But
Imagine
Like,
the
not
rocks
to
you could
complain-
climb
I mean,
if you
it's
had that.
obviously that's
she's
hilarious.
no. This
but
was a standard climber, so her
Well,
finger naturally burst through.
again, it's only tendons there, so you're.
Nathan.
You can't train it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can.
She's born
toughen
with it.
them, but there's not a muscle there. So if it does that, oof, that is not good. You
So-
have torn something.
Which reminds me, a part that I always actively try to not think about on this movie.
Paper cut.
No.
Oh.
The hot dog fingers. The floppy long.
I kind of like that they ran that joke into the ground. 'Cause,
ran
like,
it
you
into the
you expect it to be a one-time thing, but like
Yeah.
it ties into the emotional beat at the end.
It does.
With like the love thing, because like she
Yeah.
actually loves Jamie Lee Curtis, and like they're putting their fingers in the mouth.
You know what this reminded me of? I mean, here's the thing: is that first of all, it makes me. I find it very uncomfortable. Let me start out by saying that. But it immediately reminds me of what was the Kevin Smith movie we watched recently? Mallrats. And it's the chocolate scene again. It's the fingers to oral fixation stuff.
Which you put as our thumbnail.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, yeah.
The poop
he did.
scene?
The poop scene with it. And that's all I kept thinking with the little. And sure, like the emotional payoff does get there for the scenes. Like it's not wasted, but so uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Rakakuni is going on, and I'm give me 7 more of those scenes.
Yeah.
Actually, just make
I
a whole
love
movie
that.
on
And like you've like for some reason felt that connection between the guy and Rakakuni.
Rakakuni, when it's locked up immediately, I'm like, I remember I watched this with Hannah, and she's like, if anything happens to that raccoon, I am going to bawl, and she bawled anyway.
It
So
was so clearly a puppet too.
Yeah,
Like, it was
it
just
was.
moving its arms like this.
yeah, I kind of love where it's just like she's seen too much, and it starts out to be like a horror flick in that way, and I'm just like, that's amazing. That is so good. Rakakuni is like such an absolute highlight in this movie.
But you know what? The best scene of the movie. Say what you will. It's the rock scene. The rock scene when they're finally just
yeah.
everything calms down to just a very subtle breeze.
The finale rock scene
the
or the
beginning one?
Oh, the first rock scene.
Because
okay.
before that, it's showing the depressing thing and
Yes.
everything,
Yeah.
and it's this super fast aggressive
Yes.
montage, and then it just cuts.
Yeah.
to
I
that
think
because
it's
it's showing
It cuts
all
to
you the
almost
things.
silence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Really
Yeah,
well
silence.
very
done.
flat silence.
Very nice backdrop. Just it's great. Then later on, doesn't she start to roll towards her
Yeah.
after that? scene's
Yeah,
over,
whenever
next
they
scene
wind
comes
back
up?
to it,
Yeah.
she's just like, "Let me go," and then
Pinata scene, hot dog scene,
Yeah.
rock scene.
Rock scene.
It's up there.
See, my favorite was when you see the antagonist for the first time, Joy.
yeah,
When
Joy.
she comes off the elevator and is like,
Mm.
Wapu Tiku's here, whatever the name
That's
was.
it,
yeah.
And then she's
She's
like, I'm
stunting
gonna
her.
walk through you or something, and turns him into confetti in a
That
weird
is
way.
Probably
I
the
loved
best
it.
scene overall. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I
her-
love that. It's just so creative.
Joy's introduction is which is the funniest thing though too. So when we're talking about antagonists and protagonists in this movie is really quite, I think, special in its way, where Evelyn is both the protagonist and the antagonist, and
Because she
several roles.
created the actual
Right.
antagonist.
So Evelyn is playing several roles through the experiences of the telling of these other characters' perspectives. Well, she's technically our protagonist for the sake of the movie telling it's the movie. But then, she's clearly antagonist to Joy being existing in the first place because of their motherly, the family trauma and the generational stuff going on there. And I think that's a really underrated strength of this movie is Evelyn's ability to be able to be playing all these roles and still being a protagonist but a sympathetic antagonist, and we're sitting there we hate her, we love her, and it's all those conflicting feelings, but that's what generational trauma feels like when it's going through with it. So I think that is done exceptionally well.
Because you see her at the beginning of the movie when she crushes Joy. When,
Yeah.
she's like, I'm trying to think, I don't know the word for girlfriend, I don't
Yeah,
know. And then,
girl and
and then,
boy.
she's just
and then Ellen steps in and is like, oh, it's her good
It's
friend.
her good friend.
Yeah.
And
And
then
then, it just crushes her.
Joy
and
even
she
recognizes
walks-
that she knows what she said, and she's just
Yeah.
From there, just totally turned off on that one.
Nathan, you haven't said too much on
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah, Nathan.
What are your
This,
thoughts
this
on it?
we had
fingers.
seen this movie at least once or twice prior to Nathan. This was your first time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it flows really well. Doesn't seem to waste your time.
I'm surprised you're not more
Visually
engaged on the
very
visuals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just a lot.
It is a lot. It
And
absolutely
not
is a lot.
Not that I feel like it's overwhelming or
No.
anything. It's just I don't know. I mean, you could talk about the visuals of this movie.
Until
Ad
the
nauseam.
cows
Oh
come
gosh,
home.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, whenever you're discussing a movie, I feel like, what it's trying to tell and things like that. Are really more the substance especially with this one, because this one's it's cool. It's cool that it did all this visual stuff.
Right.
It's also I don't know, the through line of it, I think, is really a lot of what matters about it ultimately.
Right. I think to your point, there's it's kind of the it's the Naughty Dog style of writing where it's just simple story, complex characters, right? And I feel like that pertains so much to this movie as well. Is that
Good way to put it.
the overall story itself is a very simple story between relationships with mother and daughter and family relations. But then we were looking at what we get shown, and it's just oof. I know for me mentally, it's one of the things where I think back on the movie and I'm a visual thinker, so I'm thinking the movie, and it kind of gets sped up as I'm trying to think, oh, what about this scene and stuff like that. But because there's so much content with it, it just feels like I'm speed running the movie with this one, just because there's so many scenes.
And they do that on purpose.
They
I mean,
do,
they are
yeah.
cranking through. You could look away for 10 seconds and you would have missed 3 different return back scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, especially once it gets chaotic and they hit the pinata scene again, they hit the hot dog fingers again, they hit the everything bagel again. People worshiping it is unreal. How it would be cool to see a breakdown sheet of what got addressed the most.
Oh, even what
each
universe had the most
universe,
time and this
yeah.
much things with
Or
this.
each
yeah.
character,
Right.
I don't know, just.
What's the best universe we saw in there? I know we're not really that's not my job to ask the question, but out of curiosity, you see all the verses, and I know they're very grounded in human reality still, but what little slight variation are you I kind of like this
Wasn't
one?
there an animated one?
There was an
Well,
animated one.
there was the
For a
child spawning
second,
one.
yeah.
That was cool. I liked that one actually. I'm gonna say The Rock still.
I was about to say you're just gonna be a rock, Mason.
just because
The Rock didn't make sense. Those were smoothed over rocks that only happen in creeks.
All right, so
they were up on top of a plateau.
Did you guys see like why the hot dog?
Is this the lizard over Tomb Raider all over again?
Yeah. So what was funny though was like talking about that, like they made so much sense of each universe. Like for instance, those hot dog fingers, they actually said they had that gorilla scene.
They did the rollback all the way to like
10 million BC.
Yeah.
And
Or
like
like
an ape with hot dog fingers beat the last person
with the regular fingers.
Yeah. Same thing with the rocks. They were like, a lot of these universes are like this, where like humans don't even actually exist, so here we are. These are what we are. Still like the rock scene the most. Like that was the best universe.
I'd like to say the Raccacoonie one just for the comedy of it, but I think like the Kung Fu one was like just a mini snapshot of what the movie.
The Kill Bill.
The Kill Bill, right? The Kill Bill 1 2.
Yeah. Because like it's basically about her. And she parts ways with Wayman. They don't wind up getting together. And then she winds up almost getting beat up. So she gets taken in by this random kung fu master person, which is kind of comedic in itself because she's got like even like the goatee kind of thing, which is just goofy. And then it gets to the premiere of her movie or whatever. And then she meets Wayman there. And then as they're walking away, I think that's when it had the movie had the best emotional moment for me is when he finally says like I really hate that we didn't wind up getting together. I think it would have been great to be boring and run a laundromat with you. So I just thought like that was a good mini snapshot of the movie.
Price immediately put that into his wedding vows and said, I can't wait to run a boring laundromat with you.
Dang it.
Price,
need to write that down.
Oh, shit, that's good. Any other,
I think another quick like show not tell thing was whenever Wayman ate the chapstick like out of nowhere, like it was before he had to explain the fact that you have to do these outlandish things in order to unlock skills and jump universes, whatever. This movie was full of stuff like that where you're just like, I think that was a rule. Like I think that's in the guidebook, but like they mentioned that earlier. I don't know. And like the paper cut scene, the butt plug scene, all that stuff was just universe jumping.
And I don't want to undersell the comedy of this movie because I was laughing so much of this movie. Like
I wasn't laughing a lot, but there was a lot of like quirky moments.
There's some really good laughs. Fair. Like I like the one where like Evelyn's like, why did you choose me? Like, why am I the chosen one? And he's like, oh, because you're the most underwhelming, unfulfilled, like worst version of Evelyn you could be. So you're the closest to all these places you could have.
You are the worst Evelyn of all the Evelyns in the verse, right? That's pretty amazing.
She took that in stride though.
She did.
She really didn't seem that bothered by that.
Yeah, she's like, after seeing the other ones, I do kind of suck.
I see that. Yeah. This is the worst I could possibly be of any verse or whatever. Any interesting trivia in this movie, Bryce?
I forgot to look at that, so that's actually on me. I was focusing on my question because I have that ready.
Okay. No, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, go ahead and ask the question.
We'll
allow it.
So my question was, is there any other movie that's been made this year that you think would compete with this one for Best Picture? Nathan, you're kind of out of this because you don't really watch anything contemporary.
Yeah, I
looked up like the other popular movies from this year.
Yeah, help me out.
Top Gun Maverick, X, Northman, Batman, Nope. Then we're getting down into ones I don't think we're going to consider. Turning Red, Massive Talent, Elvis, Bad Guys, RRR, Dog, and Morbius. So I think we're done.
Well, I think it's Morbius.
When he said it's Morbin time, I lost it.
Did he start morbing all over everybody? Yeah.
I hate the fact that list exists because you're right. I mean, none of those.
I don't see anything comparing to
the Menu and Avatar are going to be this
I think RRR is going to be a big one.
Shut up.
All the critics have
3 hour long
action.
Critics have fallen in love with it. It's foreign, which is like always a hit with that.
Now, after Parasite now.
Yeah. You can't just keep beating that. No, there's no way. No one will have seen that movie.
But the Menu, I don't know. I think that will be too niche. I think that's
I'm not. Yeah, it'll be Avatar. I think Avatar will be it.
Wait, Avatar 2's this year?
December 20th or December.
Yeah. Okay,
it makes this calendar.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So I would say that this feels like a frontrunner movie in that category, and not just because of quality, but also when you're listing up the movies that came out this year. This year, not the strongest year for movies. Yeah. If we're looking at it from like an Oscars style movie, which again they traditionally don't always dump until right around nowish, typically November, December, right before the tail end of the year because they want recency bias in place. So it's kind of hard to gauge to see, but yeah, I mean, just as a standalone movie in itself that would be recognized for a lot of like good accolades and stuff. Yeah, it's like unfairly in favor for this movie.
I was making that comment not to promote this movie, but more of just like there really hasn't been.
No, this has been
awesome.
An Academy's like lull summer.
I watched Bullet Train 3 days ago.
I keep hearing wonderful things about Bullet Train.
Fucking solid.
Yeah.
It's real good. All right, so I might change.
I haven't seen that.
I might actually put it on the wheel on the next.
You should.
cycle.
It's in my download list right
fun.
now. I mean, I wouldn't download a movie.
Would you download a car?
I would download a car.
Steal a purse.
Every second I'd get. I don't even like cars that much. I don't
even like purses. I'd take them.
I'd take them right from those old ladies.
Yes, I think there's more potential besides this movie, but Oscar frontrunner, possibly, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun, but
I think
I also thought Jojo Rabbit was the best feature of 2019.
19.
And, Parasite had it, which is fun.
Well,
those are two really good movies, though.
I mean,
you can't really even though I don't like a lot about JoJo, like, I see why you would think that.
Hey, Little Women was there that year, too.
2019 was an insane year. Let's start with that. Like, they're almost... I don't think there was a bad one in there, but we're not talking about 2019. I'll get on the rant for that.
Thank you.
I
knew where you were going.
Solid year. Anyway, Fat Fit.
Yeah.
Sure. Perfectly fit.
Gosh, Nathan, you bring us up here. Yeah. I don't know.
Take us home, Country Road.
I don't know. I mean, it is a long movie, but I don't think it is wasting your time. I don't really rate the rock scene that high.
I don't like how smooth they are.
His was the hot dog scene. Yours was the rock scene.
Yeah, I mean the rock scene's fine. It's just like, it's just text popping up with some rocks. That could have popped up a little quicker.
They were really.
They could have spent that.
You could have mushed that together.
We don't stop for the slow readers. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything I'd pick out. Okay. I think it's fun. Yeah.
Fit.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna say it's a little bit chubby. I think that I don't think that this movie necessarily needed its chapters or its segments, if you will. I think that you know what they were doing? They had 15 ideas that they threw at the wall, and that was just one of them. And they all flowed pretty well, like you just said.
And they all stuck to the wall.
And they all stuck to the wall real hard. They actually had to get a crowbar to get them off.
Yeah.
But the chapters was a little bit weird. I don't know that she necessarily needed to die in the middle, because I'm not gonna lie. As soon as that happened, I knew the movie wasn't over. But
you saw the runtime.
I looked, and I was like, God dang it, there's another hour, and it was about 50 minutes, I think, because it was a little bit over halfway. And I was like, gosh. If anything, that pointed you in the direction that you're not even close to the ending. Like, here's an ending, you got a long way to go from here. So maybe cut that out. I think that they could have sort of fabricated that a little differently. But that's probably the only scene that I would cut, because I do like the heartstrings at the end. Again, it ended at the laundromat just because it started there.
Time is a flat bagel.
Yeah, everything is a bagel. So, but yeah, there's not a single universe or scenario that I would have cut out of the grandfather in that robot suit at the end was a top costume, one of the top costumes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I don't know how much it turns around to be at the end for the hot dog fingers. I don't know if I still want to validate it in there. That's a lot.
It's not my favorite scenario.
It's them biting it, and it's the mustard
I will say that that made me a little uncomfortable. It's like,
give you raw flashbacks.
In this universe, are they eating each other's fingers?
Right, and do those grow back?
Do they go back? They're like octopuses?
I haven't
definitely grow back.
Yeah, I mean,
people be eating those.
Yeah, I had more questions that I didn't want answered, and that's my issue with it. I'm like, I don't want to know. Tell me less. Show me less. I don't care how wholesome I get.
I mean, it's funny that it cuts to that that same thing that she paused to watch for a moment in the laundromat, and then they had the fingers like that. That's a good moment, but then they took it too far with the ketchup and the mustard.
It just kept pushing it into the ground.
It did.
Do you want some more?
It did. That's like the one joke / not joke that I was just like, let this go. And honestly, if you're gonna do it, you just do it the first little scene where it's weird, and then the second one where they're fighting, with the fingers. I'm like, okay, that's enough. That's enough for me.
Spinning, that was just a one note, sort of thing after she learned it. Yeah, I get it.
Boom, and then flicks everybody off. But otherwise, I think this is a very a surprisingly fit movie considering what it does. But yeah, the fucking fingers. Keep fingers out of mouths, you weirdos. You.
When a movie gets after the 2-hour mark, it's a very precipitous line it's walking in terms of it being a fit or fat movie.
You looked that up.
It's
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah.
Oh my god, because anything after 2 hours, you have to be walking that very carefully. And I think this movie did. It like what Dylan says, it's a simple story but complex characters, and it's a complex world, and you get to see a lot of it. You get to really live in that world. You're not there too long. You're not there too short. Just in the right amount of time, and it feels like I didn't feel like any of my time was wasted on this movie. Again, even though it was out 2 hours and 20 minutes, it didn't feel like there was a minute wasted, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And before scores, I was wanting to mention a couple things that I really liked how the everything bagel was used. Like it's a joke, like it's played as a joke, but it's also meaningful in that like it's basically what Joy used to like all of the experiences she had in the universes, like she put onto that. So like she's basically saying like she had all these experiences and they all basically mean nothing.
Seeds, and then the
at the
garlic,
end,
the dog,
which she explains.
Yeah.
And I don't want to undersell the finale as well, like how like it's not solved through violence, it's solved by figuring out like what each person loves and
processing
what they're
the
missing.
traumas and stuff like that.
And it goes through like I like how it goes through the side characters, but it's very quick. And there is
Yeah.
one little small piece of trivia that one of the directors is the side character that has the bondage fetish. That guy,
the white
he has
guy with the glasses?
Yeah, he's one of the directors.
He like smiled when she spanked him.
Yeah.
too. Like you can see it. It's like that. It was like she got one go. And he's like, oh, all right.
That makes sense for him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's a strong undertone of sexuality throughout this movie, like in the scenes. Again,
Just it seems like directors like to indulge with their fetishes when
he was literally just like, I'm gonna do
Tarantino.
this. My buddies will never expect this out of me.
Hey, that's him in his own movie.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair, I mean, like you're sitting there and saying like I get to have famous actress Michelle Yeoh. And I'm going to put her into a movie where she spanks me. And that is just a story in itself. It's worth all of your directing career, you know?
Oh, but when Tarantino says to pop those shoes off, that's when it gets weird?
Yes.
Okay.
Nathan, would you like to lead the discussion to the
Okay,
scores?
Kill Bill fan, where it's like the worst in that movie.
Wiggle your big toe. That's actually Quentin Tarantino whispering to Uma Thurman.
In the pussy wagon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the back of that truck.
Yeah, my pussy wagon broke down.
I don't know, Inglourious Basterds is kind of bad when he's
It's
like,
bad.
like, put it right here, and she puts her foot up there, and is like,
Get your foot off me. Your bunions.
But
Your funyuns.
look at that funyun.
You.
It's a big old funyun.
On a scale of 0 to 10 if you're priced, 1 to 10 for everybody else.
0.
Hey, I think you ought to
zero's
get
kind of
one.
like an everything bagel.
Hey,
It is.
It's the same shape.
Yeah.
It's the same shape.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say this movie's pretty close to perfect. It hits all kinds of great notes along the way. Very smartly done. It doesn't try and like annoy you with an overly complicated story. It's just telling a simple story in an overcomplicated way, which is a cool take. Yeah, I think I'd give it like a 9.5.
Nice.
I could. I don't know. Like I don't think I could quite go 10 with it, but it's definitely really good. They did a great job of being funny and emotional. So yeah, I mean that's some really good stuff, and also just all the wild and crazy costume changes and everything were exceptional.
I thought of you distinctly when watching this. I'm like, Nathan's gonna love this costume.
I didn't know I wanted a teddy bear sweater, but
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
cool sweater. Like just having actual teddy bears stitched into your sweater, that's
Honestly,
dope.
it's pretty great.
Yeah, like that. I definitely rate that. I need to find something like that.
I'm sure A24 has it on their website.
Yeah,
I'm
probably.
sure.
Yeah.
Please help fund our next weird movie.
We're running out of fetish directors.
For everything Nathan just said, it was very true. It was overcomplicated as far as like everything that they threw at it, which was good. I I think that the movie itself is such an sensory overload that, like, it does work, but the only scenes that I couldn't really get over is, well, you guys are gonna hate me for it.
The Rock one
at the beginning, whenever she's just basically just running that laundromat, just basically dismissing every single person around her. That stuff got really old really fast. Luckily, they didn't hone in on that for too long. They
set
started
up the movie.
Exactly. No, and you're right. It was fine. It's just for me, I was just like, God dang.
Let's get out of this laundromat.
Yes. I mean, you just saw everything was stacked up, piled high. They were obviously very, very obviously.
It does so much.
Have you spent any time in a laundromat?
I don't want to. But I surely never walked into a laundromat. But anyways,
really? That's a whole discussion in itself.
Never. I still give this movie a 9. I think that it's great. It is a lot to chew on. Bryce nailed it earlier when he said you don't want to just sit down and watch this movie whenever you're, trying to eat a quick bite. Or, like Dylan said, not trying to do laundry or dishes or clean the house.
I couldn't imagine putting this on in the background.
I played Plate Up.
Hey, there you go.
You're still doing Plate Up?
Nice.
I was working on some achievements.
Oh my God.
I haven't got them all yet. So
it's just going away at my grind.
Yeah.
No, but for those facts only, this movie is not perfect. It's very close. I do think that it's really, really good. But the fact that you basically have to set time aside for a movie like this. Say what you will.
No.
Go ahead and give it your 10, but it's almost a little bit much for me. It's still really good. I've given The Social Network a 9.5. It's less to chew on. You can actually kind of dip in and out of that movie a little bit more. This movie, you have to stare at the screen. Sorry, Nathan. I don't know if you feel the same way, but you have to stare at the screen the entire time.
Well, to be fair, and this side of the couch has the hardest time with those type of movies to begin with. So
I like to get up and move around a little bit.
Mason's like, I like to move my
toes.
I like to have a bathroom break and not pause.
Sometimes I gotta let the dog out. You know what I'm saying? And this movie,
sometimes I gotta kill a giant anaconda behind my TV.
Yeah,
that was a thing.
That was a thing. Did I not send it to you?
No.
You haven't seen that? Ooh,
no, I
got
haven't
you.
seen it. All right,
that was a lot. Anyways, 9 for me. Very good movie, but a couple little qualms here. Oh, last note. I don't know. I didn't think anyone was going to mention it. Story of a Girl played 8 times in this movie in different variations.
I didn't know this.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just like in little cutscenes and stuff. That was in my house. Go ahead, Dylan.
Poor guy.
Behind his TV.
Yeah. Well,
you could have just let him.
It was just a black snake, but I'm with.
Yeah. I'm of two minds. The Crocodile Hunter fan of me would have said, like, you got to preserve nature. Just let him out. The human side of me being in the home is just like,
it's in your house.
Yeah, it's in my house. I'm like, buddy, you've made a mistake. That will cost you your life.
It's the room turns red.
Yeah.
Like,
Alexa, attack mode.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's like I always say, like, I don't know where you're going. Like, we're coming to you in the wrong basement.
Yeah. It's the fucking leprechaun drinking paint. This movie, pretty good movie. It definitely, it's definitely it's not a perfect movie, but it's a movie that over time I want to keep coming back to and seeing if I care less and less about the flaws. If I care less about the fucking fingers, I probably won't. That'll probably still bother me. If I care less about, no, it's mostly just that, honestly. No, this movie is absolutely fantastic. I think that I'll start by saying my score is going to be a 9 for this, which is breaking past the 8.5 wall of my usual scores. So make no mistake, this is a big score for this movie. And why I say it's a 9, and it could, over time, this will probably graduate to a 9.5 over time as well.
You also watched this twice within like a month or two of each other?
Yeah, and both times were hard. Not because the movie isn't difficult, or not the movie is like unwatchable or dislikable to watch. It is just an emotionally driven movie, and it is very drawing on that one. So there were times where I cried several times, both times, on watching this movie. The second time, like, now that I knew that they were coming, was like making me tear up even as I was getting into the moments, and it still hits, and I was just like...
Was it the Wayman part that got you more?
It's kind of all... No, the Joy and Evelyn's part, all the mother-daughter
that second
stuff.
Emotional beat,
all those ones, especially on the whole, like, last 20 minutes of that film, are just, like, ruined me. on those ones. They're so hard. Very emotionally driven on that stuff. Very, but expertly done. And like I said, this is such a uniquely ridiculous movie in its way of presenting the main character being a protagonist and antagonist of this and that. It just, you serve so many roles. It's done with so much stuff going on. Am I biased because there's also it being like Asian focused family and it using that as a focus? Absolutely. And that's fine. I'm allowed to be biased with it. But all of it is just such an enjoyable, fun experience. I'm laughing and smiling right off the cuff with like just like the stuff where it's putting you into a very believable family. And it just takes you into the bizarre and crazy. But none of it ever feels like it ever goes so far out of the realm that it takes me out of the movie. It all still stays on this same simple story while being an exaggerated, ridiculous mess of a film while it's shown on visual. Just like an absolute insane and crazily unique movie in itself. For this movie to be doing all the things that it does and does them well, I think is a giant pride and achievement in cinema. So I have nothing but glowing things to say, except for the fucking hot dog fingers.
That's the only negative I've heard you really say so far.
Honestly the
is
only
that really
thing
enough to get you from like knocking it down from like a 10 to a 9?
No, and I wouldn't. And here's the thing. So I never give anything a 10 off the cuff because I think that to get to a 10 for me, this is No, this is my only second 9 or something like that.
No, it's your second time watching.
Oh, yeah, this is my second time, right? But that's only a month apart though, so that's not a fair compromise for me. I've got to see let's see in a year if I'm still high on it, because I was still high on it, knowing it was within a month-long span of watching it. It'll probably graduate to a 9.5 when I watch this again, probably here in a year or so. And then it could probably easily graduate to a 10 even more over time with that, because I would say the same thing happened with Inception. Inception didn't start at a 10. It started as a 9 or 9.5.
It started as a 7 when you didn't understand it the first time, am I right?
So not everybody is a teenager. Anyway, TLDR, it's a 9 that's very much trending upwards in my head. But woof, it is an emotional ride. That's the one thing I will say put me off from immediate rewatch. If I didn't have to do it for this podcast, I wouldn't have watched it within a year of seeing it, just because that was so much.
The reason I did that big sigh while Mason was talking during the end of it was because I cannot believe I'm saying it, but I'm agreeing with a lot. Even though I said the original piece, Mason topped it up, and I agree almost across the board with Mason. Write it down, put a note on it, put it in your.
I don't know what he agreed with.
Put it on your calendar. No, I agree with a lot of what Mason said. Besides the intro part, I very much.
I liked that part. It was almost too real. For her character, I guess.
Whenever that intro was going through, right whenever it jumped the shark and made a sudden change, I remember thinking I actually would have watched this movie even if it was just this laundromat
drama. Yeah.
Even that, I was just
chaos.
I feel like that could be a very interesting story because these characters are already interesting enough.
Yeah.
One thing off subject, when they're in the laundromat, there's the moment where everyone's having a conversation in front of the cameras,
monitors, yeah,
and you see Wayman go into he activates and just starts doing flips and stuff.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
That
I guess that was just
warming up to the concept.
That was right before
kind of showing
scene,
that something was weird.
Okay.
Because also the cameras even showed stuff there's stuff popping up on the cameras saying things.
Yeah, those little glitches and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was, I don't know. That's some nonsense.
It seemed like it. It didn't seem like it is needed. If I was thinking in the in that world, why would he risk being in this precarious situation to come?
And it also goes to the whole thing where it's just why would that have happened?
Mm-hmm.
Why would the camera have said something?
Yeah.
Right.
That's more just why is there river rocks on top of this cliff?
I choose to believe it's the effects of the multiverses that bleeding through, and glitches in the Matrix. Right?
I don't hold any of those little things against it because this movie isn't trying to
be 100% accurate.
Yeah. This isn't a movie about geology and accurate rock placements anyway. Right.
Sorry, to get back to my score, got a little off topic there. I agree with Mason a lot. The main thesis I said for my score, I said it at the beginning of this review, in that I love this movie, but it's a lot to chew on. It's hard to just sit down and watch, and depending on what mood you're in, on how to handle it. Because when I went to the cinema to watch this, I was locked in, ready, loved the whole experience. I was thinking I was going to wind up giving this a 10, but after watching it the last time, I was kind of worn out that day. It was only 7 o'clock, and I popped the movie on, and I was all right, this is a lot to handle for me right now. And that's just why I had to knock it down a point for that. And that's why I'm agreeing with Mason on a 9, which, like I said, is unbelievable. But everything else in this movie, as we've said a million times, is that we love everything about it. It's kind of like the Parasite thing for me, that like I feel like it has a lot of different genres and moments in it that all excel in what they're trying to do. And I really like it when... I like it either when a movie has one single note that it tries to just like get through, like my other 10s, like Whiplash, Billy Madison, stuff like that. And then I also like movies like this and Parasite that like have a lot of different small things, but it excels at all of them at the same time. And this movie does. I love the characters a lot. Waymond is incredible. He does so much, and he's just the heartbeat of this movie, I think. And all the characters are awesome. The dialogue's fun. It's funny. It tells a really compelling story, even though it is fairly simple, and it's just a joy to watch. And it's over 2 hours, and it doesn't feel like it at the end, which I think is the biggest credit to this movie.
Scores. Rotten Tomatoes, anything?
Yeah, it was high, of course.
What did critics think about this elaborate, interesting?
It was like a 90% or something.
Yeah. Critics 95, audience 89.
Yeah. So
critics were higher.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me for that. I could see
think
where.
So?
Really?
Because I always come back to saying that moviegoer, the standard moviegoer is somebody who watches maybe a couple movies away and stumble into this movie, and they're just like, "What the fuck?" And like
they want to question it more than anything. They're like, I don't think that would. Right. I don't know.
I've seen enough people stumble into movies and it like even be like, "Oh yeah, I watch Marvel movies," but then they won't even know there's a universe attached to it. So I'm like, listen, regular moviegoers are not paying that much attention, and this is a movie that you cannot pay that much attention and still get the story, but it could also easily be like, I thought it was a little too much, and feel like they didn't have a tolerance for it in a lot of ways. So
I want the simplest story ever, and this movie I feel like is just on the cusp. It's like I don't know. I had to pay full attention to it, and that's a lot.
I know. Well, you're
a big brain.
I know you want to go do like grocery shopping in the middle of the movie and like just bring back. Like,
you want to turn the channel during the movie and come back.
You want to take several naps in the middle of this movie and come back.
I watched this yesterday morning at like 7:30 in the morning.
Woo!
I watched it today.
Oh my gosh! No, I couldn't. Anyway, give me that wheel. And plant it right on.
Go for it.
The bell. What? Hold on. Is the wheel correct? First of all, I gotta make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. It's gonna spin either way.
All of my movements are off now.
It is. Price is no longer.
One more.
I fucking knew it.
Fuck.
Retro.
Oh
my god.
Review.
Theo's into it.
How did we decide who gets this though?
I think the best way is probably to spin
we can
it.
all just decide together collectively.
I was about to say
we're gonna have to do this off camera.
Agree on one that we'd want to do.
I already know what we should vote for.
What?
It's Raw.
Hell no.
I'm kind of leaning towards Raw too, but we do need to figure that out off camera.
So we'll figure it off camera. So that's a special surprise for you guys. You're going to tune in next week to see a movie, and you're going to be like, oh, I guess they just picked that one.
You're not watching us sequentially. You're not.
They may be. They may be. You never
They're
know.
not.
But the good part about this is going to be a nice little midway season finale point because we have a lot of things going on in our real world. Now, you may not notice by the time this uploads and all of that, but we will notice it'll be a few weeks before we get around to the next recording on it. So I'm just going to call this a mid-season finale. For the sake of it, because you gotta make it feel grand.
Because I want to.
Yeah, because I want to, and this is special.
Well, I mean, this movie did just get probably the highest rating out of any.
It needed, I think it ought to have. Yeah,
I feel like
that maybe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
3 9s and a 9.5.
Yeah, like there's no way there's a movie we reviewed that has gotten higher than this.
That's probably right.
Inglourious Basterds or Jurassic Park, maybe. Those would be the only two.
Parasite got high.
No, I think Price went low on Jurassic Park, low enough to where
he wants to tank it so that
I did not.
Anyway, universally. Anyway, we'll figure it out later.
Jurassic Park.
If you like the content that we're doing, as always, let us know in the comments below. Kelly Bell Sr. Tell us more about the cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, let us
How often are we talking? You're saying often, but I mean.
I can't even have them.
And he can't even have them, so you're
gonna have the nuts on top.
That feels like it's insulting him.
Oh, well. Continue the sign-off.
Actually, no, it's 1.13 because I changed the... Yeah.
So while Mason figures this out, make sure to give us a thumbs up for all the hard work we keep doing. We watch emotionally difficult movies and give it a very nice, simple description so that you can be intrigued by it. Possibly spoilers, possibly not spoilers. Probably spoilers. Always spoilers.
Always spoilers.
If you give us a thumbs down if you don't
spoilers.
like spoilers. Yeah, huge spoilers. Yes, it's a joke. You can't give us a thumbs down. Let us know in the comments below if you didn't like it, and if you give us a thumbs down in the comments, it still gives us algorithm engagements. It doesn't matter. Make sure to subscribe because we have a classroom of subscribers, and if you don't subscribe, that's fine too. Whatever. I mean, we're cool. 30 subs is just fine for us. Otherwise,
we have to get more desks in if we have.
Yeah,
more
we
students,
do. We need more.
30 is about the most the classroom can really fit.
That's fair. Fair. I mean, we have a very limited sized classroom. Kelly Bell Senior gets that reference. Anyway, and make sure to hit the bell.
Go for it.
Because
my knobby knees.
Yeah, they're so knobby. Anyway, just love us, please. We just want to be liked.
I can take it or leave it.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Man.
What I give Jurassic Park then?
8.5.
Shut up.
Yeah.
8.5?